All right, so here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? This is Joe Barnes here, and welcome to episode 1, the
Woohoo!
very first pilot episode of Joe Barnes Online Business Show, where we're discussing everything to do with mindset, marketing, and making money. So my first guest, which it couldn't have been anybody else for my first show, let's be true here. This gentleman was my mentor when I first started online back in 2010. He'd only been in the business for a couple of years himself at that point, at 2008, but he'd already become a bit of a rock star on the circuit. And he was my mentor when I first started in 2010, continued to be my mentor and very, very good friend ever since. My friend and yours, the very lovely Mr. Chris Farrell. And the crowd goes wild.
Hang on, I just realised I'm applauding myself. That's terrible. What am I doing here? Chris Farrell, why am I applauding? Joe, thank you for the introduction. And can I just say straight away, I am honoured to be the guest on the inaugural Joe Barnes Online Business Show. What an honour! So thank you ever so much for the invite. I appreciate you inviting me, Joe. It's great to be here.
Absolutely my pleasure, Mr. Farrell. Lovely to see you, and thank you very much for your time today. So I am going to grill you now. I'm going to ask you lots and lots of questions all about you and your business and everything that everybody wants to know, all the secrets people want to know about.
Oh no, I knew one day this day would come. I've tried to avoid it for years. No, I can't escape. Okay, grill me, baby, grill me.
Well, let's just start with, tell us what you've been up to the last couple of years. Where have you been? What have you been doing?
Okay, well, a long story short, the heart, as some may know, the heart of our business is our membership site. I always have believed that continuity is the best business model out there, and if you can create any business that really allows somebody to pay once and then you get a recurring income from it, as long as, of course, you continue to deliver value, it's the best business model out there. And membership sites fit into that category perfectly. So we have a membership site that is continuing to do well, but with this industry that, as you know well, Joe, you and I are in, things are continually evolving, continually changing, so that keeps us on our toes to stay abreast of changes in the business. So our core, if you like, is our membership site, but then we have satellite products, and we've had quite a few successful 6- and 7-figure product launches over the last couple of years. In fact, we've had 3 of those, and I've kind of found a new avenue that's opened up to me. I've been invited to speak at various things, which is something I certainly enjoy. I always get very nervous and anxious, and that's something I'd like to kind of investigate further. So that's kind of where we are at the moment, and I'm living still in sunny Los Angeles, and so I've got like 1,020 dogs now these days. We seem to buy a different dog every week. I don't know why. I'm turning into that crazy old man that's got like, come around to my house, oh, there's another dog there. He's that weird guy that lives down the street with loads of dogs. So that's where we are right now.
I love the fact that you just said that sometimes you get nervous and anxious, actually. That's really, because that's something I wanted to ask you about a little bit later in the show. To say, you know, sometimes, because this is like the first episode of this, right?
Yeah.
I've known you for forever, it feels like, and yet before I pushed the start broadcast button, I could feel butterflies in my stomach, a little bit nervous. It's the first episode.
Good.
You know, and you just think to yourself, gosh, do people still does everybody else still get nervous too?
Well, Joe, I love you anyway, and I love you for saying that. And you know, the two things spring to mind. Firstly, that's great. It means that you're never going to get complacent. And the day that doesn't happen, I don't know if it is nerves or whether it's just kind of, you know, you're anxious to deliver your, you know, the most effective that you can be and the most optimum in your kind of your presentation. You're just sort of, you know, wanting to deliver. And I read an interview recently with Tom Cruise, of all people, and he says still to this day, when he's on a film set, he still gets nervous every single day before he starts to kind of film and the cameras roll, because he's still anxious about delivering to the best of his ability. I think that's never going to go away. And when I don't speak at that many events, but I'm speaking maybe every couple of months at quite big events around the world. As soon as I'm asked to do it, you know, building up to the event, I am still nervous about it. And this isn't some sort of false modesty that some people say to try and endear themselves. Oh, I'm a little bit nervous, please go easy on me. You know, that it really is that kind of that anxiousness. But I think That's always going to be there, and therefore the real issue is, as Jack Canfield once said, is it's not kind of what happens in our life, it's how we react and respond to it. You know, how do we deal with that? Do I not do something because I'm a little bit nervous, or do I do it despite that? It's like creating a web business. Do we not create a web business because there are a few new skills to learn first, and we think, oh, I can't possibly do it? Or do we still take that leap despite not quite knowing how to do everything and push through despite our fears? And you are the poster girl for doing exactly that, and having great success doing so.
I just make all my mistakes publicly. um, I
Nothing
do.
wrong with
But
that.
anyway, this isn't about me. This is about you. I want to talk about the mistakes you've made. More importantly, I want to talk about.
I think that was a good thing. I want to talk about the mistakes you made, Farrell, because we all know there's been a lot of them.
No, absolutely. I want to talk about what mistakes you think you've made along the way that have actually helped you get where you are today. And not just the mistakes, the successes as well, Chris. Really, what do you think it has been over the last few years that's propelled you now to where you are? I talk quite a lot in my blog and stuff about, what is the secret to success? What do you think is your secret?
I can tell you exactly what it is, and I'm really thrilled. I mean, I don't know what you're going to ask me, by the way, on this, and I'm really thrilled that you have asked that question. I can tell you exactly what it is, and I think it is that I am completely comfortable learning new skills. Learning is everything. Learning is sexy. I do this thing. In fact, I don't think I've even told this to you, Joe. I do a thing every morning. I call it my brainfluence time, and I call it that just for myself. It's named after the book Brainfluence. And every morning, before I do any work on the business, I spend an hour. My wife knows about this. I spend an hour with a coffee just learning a new skill, learning something new. Because I find mentally that if I start the day learning something new, it could be a marketing tactic, it might be something for personal development, it might be reading a chapter of a book that has been sitting on my shelf for years I simply have never got around to. I find that if we train our brain to learn new information, then we just become so much more effective, not just in life, but as a person. So to answer your question, my secret, if there is such a thing as a secret, is that I am not scared about learning new things. Unfortunately, I think we now live in a world of people have a sense of self-entitlement. People want to take the road, that's the road less what's the word? The path of least resistance. That's what I'm trying to say.
Path of least resistance. Yeah.
Yeah, and people live in this world of self-entitlement, of thinking that they can do well or should be able to do well without putting in any effort. As we know, it doesn't work like that. But here's the thing: it doesn't take a huge amount of effort to learn just a few simple skills that will set you above 99% of other people. And I am not scared of that. I get excited if something changes on Facebook. If I want to learn Facebook ads, or I want to learn a new optimization technique, or I want to learn how to write more effective emails, I'm not scared about spending a few days just focusing on that, learning it, and then implementing it. And I think that's the key, because most people really are quite lazy. Most people are quite lazy. And that's not a judgment call. Most people are. Most people don't want to do any work. And because most people don't want to do any work, if we do just a little bit of work, it puts us above the majority of people who aren't doing any. And that's why it's simple but not easy, as Jim Rohn once said. It's quite simple to have a successful web business, but not necessarily easy once we get comfortable, in my opinion, with learning new skills. So everything for me, everything comes down to learning new skills and implementing them in the business. Otherwise, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And again, I don't want to keep passing the baton back to you, but you're a perfect example of this. I've come to you many times asking about new things that are happening. How does this work on Google Plus? How does this work? Because you will jump in with both feet and you will learn new stuff. And it's quite a rare quality in somebody to do that. So my advice would be to those that are watching, the first ever episode of Joe Barnes' Online Business Show: get comfortable with learning. Learning is sexy. Learning is earning. The more you learn, what happens is you increase more value about yourself, and we all get paid for how much value we bring to our market. So if we can have more skills, it's going to make us more valuable. And if we're more valuable, we can then make more money. So that would be my answer, Joe. I'm comfortable learning new skills.
Great answer, brilliant answer. And just sort of moving on from that, what's your view sort of with internet marketing now as a whole? Because if you think about what the statement you've just said about most people are lazy. One of the things that I think has then therefore occurred, certainly a few years ago, was that internet marketing gained a bit of a bad name because lots and lots of people came on and started exploiting the fact that people are generally lazy and promise push button solutions and all that kind of stuff. And I'm finding these days that you find most ethical marketers now always have some kind of disclaimer that says, please note, you are not likely to make $1 million overnight with this product. You are going to have to work hard, and you're going to have to put in an effort, and you're going to have to actually move out of your comfort zone and work in order to make this happen. And I'm seeing there are still these kind of push button solutions, but I'm seeing a lot less of those online these days. And yet kind of the term, if you like, internet marketing's had a bit of a bad rap over the years because of that. So what's your general view these days of the internet marketing world, per se?
Well, I think there's certainly been a change in the last few years for the better. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, have really clamped down on these outrageous claims that many are making. There was a phase a few years ago where there were just ridiculous, absurd claims that people were making that were simply not true. They were just not true, and people are saying what people want to hear because of what we spoke about earlier. I remember speaking at an event, and a woman came over to me. She said, "Oh, I really enjoyed your event. Really enjoyed your your talk. But I want to buy this thing that this other guy mentioned because he said I can make money online within 3 days." I remember it clearly. I remember thinking, "Gosh," I mean, I was fine with that, by the way. But I was thinking, people will hear what they want to hear, and what people want to hear is that they don't have to really do any work. But you and I, Joe, and most watching this show of yours, because they're of that mindset, know that that's just simply not true. It's simply not true. Do you honestly think that anything worth achieving in life is quick and fast and easy? Of course it's not. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to take a huge amount of time, but it does take a little bit of time. It takes learning some new simple skills. It will take an investment of some money. It will take some sweat equity and some time. If you are prepared to put all those together, the results can be extraordinary. But going back to kind of answer your question specifically about internet marketing, what I would say that the difference now, where we are here in the second decade of the 21st century versus just a few short years ago when I started, is that really all, in inverted commas, that we need to do to make money now is, my advice would be, is get good at one thing. Get good at one thing. Somebody told me this when I started, and it was probably the best advice I ever received. Get good at one thing, because we think in this business we need to be a master of everything. And if somebody's watching this show and they're thinking, I keep thinking about a web business, there's something about it that I just like the feeling of. I love the freedom that I know it can bring. I know it can work. I haven't achieved it yet, but I know there's something there with a web business. I still am struggling with exactly what to do next. My advice would be, get good at one thing. That's it. One thing that you can laser focus in on. And it could be anything. For example, it could be understanding how to, I don't know, master Facebook ads, how to create videos, how to understand something. Let's use Optimize Press 2. This is a theme for WordPress that's recently been released. If you just got good at that one thing, that one skill alone, you're adding value because you now know something really well. People will pay you for your time, or you could even end up creating training products or services about that one thing that you are good at. The challenge is, of course, and Joe, I know you know this because you've seen this with many of your students, is that we all feel, and I felt this when I started, that we need to know a bit of everything, from search engine optimization to YouTube new ads to, Twitter. I haven't got a Twitter account. Should I be doing stuff on eBay? How about AdWords? And of course what happens is nothing happens. So my advice would be 5 words. Get good at one thing. Doesn't matter what that one thing is. It might be how to write effective emails. It might be how to understand WordPress. It might be how to communicate effectively. So if you can get good at one thing in this internet marketing arena, then that one thing is the thing that you could end up making a lot of money on, because you're focused and you're laser pinpointed, and people get to know you for being an expert at whatever that is. I hope that sort of answers your question.
Yeah, pick one niche. That's what I keep telling people. Pick one niche. In fact, there's a recording of me getting extremely passionate once on a webinar, saying to people, pick one niche. And my techie guy Neil's recorded it and keeps releasing it every so often. But anyway, Chris, if knowing what you know now, after all these years online, knowing what you know now, if you were starting again today in today's internet marketing world, Would you do the same as you originally did? What changes would you make? What do you think would be kind of your first steps to begin building your business?
Okay. What I would do differently is I tried to do far too much when I started. And amazingly, I didn't quit. I almost quit twice in the first 6 months, and I've mentioned this before in various places. I remember the second time particularly thinking, do you know what? Maybe I will quit. And I was so close to it. I remember how I was thinking. I was sitting outside with a coffee, and I thought, yeah, maybe I will. I mean, it's literally changed my life. I'm so glad now. But I really came close to it. Really came close. And that's because I was trying to do too much. And most are, we're solopreneurs. Most of us, when we start particularly, are on our own, really. And quite often we might have a partner who might not understand exactly what we're doing, or they're losing us to a computer. I understand that. I get that. I totally understand that there's a lot of pressure there. What I would do differently now is really what I mentioned a few moments ago. I would pick one thing, just one thing, and become a master at it. And some may be watching, the first episode here of the Joe Barnes online business show and thinking, well, I don't feel like I'm a master of something. Do you like how I just mentioned your name there? But,
awesome.
but here's the thing: you don't have to be. We all feel. I still feel that I'm not an expert in certain matters, and do you know what? Everybody feels that way. I now speak with some people that we all know, some big names, and as you get to know these guys as friends, everybody suffers from these same anxieties. Joe, we were talking about it just a few moments ago at the start of this show about feeling anxious. Everybody feels the same. So please don't use that as an excuse not to do anything. That's the biggest mistake. So to answer your question, what would I do now? I would simply pick one thing and just focus on that for maybe a month, maybe 2 months. And it will probably be now something like looking at local businesses, actually, which is not that much I do in my business right now, but I love the idea of going to local businesses, looking at their marketing, and what I mean by that is more often than not their websites. And all a business really cares about, let's break this down to brass tacks, all a business really cares about really is money. Let's be perfectly honest about it. Obviously adding value to their customers, but the bottom line is the bottom line. How much money are they making as profit? It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So if you can do anything to help somebody make more money, and that's going to be through getting more customers into your business. Most local businesses don't know a thing really. They know you should have a website, but they don't know what they're doing. My point here is, I'm getting to my point here. My point is, there's now pieces of software, things such as leadpages.net, for example, which is $37 a month. $37 a month. And for that, you can create amazing websites. I would go to local businesses. I say, let me build your list for you. If you have a list of customers, list of people interested in your product, and you went to a local business and said, look, I'll do it all for you. I'll charge you $250, $500 a month retainer. I'll look after creating the site. Now, the site can be created within Lead Pages probably within a day. Within an hour. Once you've spent a day going through Lead Pages, you can make a great-looking site. You can then say to these local businesses, look at this site. And they'd be like, wow. Then if you look after their lists, i.e. their autoresponder, and you charge them a retainer, they're never going to let you go. Then suddenly you can easily get 5, maybe 10 local businesses, leverage one business off another, say, hey, well, I'm dealing with these guys down the road. Maybe I can help do your yoga studio. That, I think, local business is, well, it is a huge market at the moment, but that is probably what I would do now. So I would just focus on one thing, and it would be helping people build their list, lead generation, build a list of prospects. That's what I would do these days if I started again.
That's great, Chris. So just picking up on lead generation and
Yes.
And how to now go out and generate leads and communicate with leads, etc. What's your views at the moment on email marketing versus social media, all that kind of stuff, and actually going out there and now generating leads? There's obviously been some big changes over the last few years. What are some of your main tactics these days, if you like, for generating leads and growing traffic?
Well, it's interesting you say this about these big changes. I often read posts, email marketing is dead, email marketing is over. We've never seen more success than email marketing. And the reason I think many may say email marketing is dead, and I don't know this for sure, is it's very easy to make a blanket statement like that. Oh, email marketing is dead. These changes recently to Gmail particularly. No, nobody's opening our emails anymore. That may be the case in your particular instance, but email marketing isn't dead if you continually engage with those that are on your list and don't try and sell to them all the time. And that's why the marketers, I think, that are saying things like this, it doesn't work for me anymore, my open rates are really low. It's yes, I want to say, yes, have you seen what you're sending to your list? Is it a surprise? Because you're trying to crowbar out somebody's credit card every single email. Does not have to be complicated. Treat people as we want to be treated. It really is, and I know we've mentioned this word a few times, and I sometimes even hesitate saying this word because it sounds like it's the buzzword to say at the moment. But really, if you spend a few emails getting to know, asking some questions, engaging with those on your list, even asking if you can help without trying to sell a product or recommend somebody else's product, then when the time comes for you to recommend something else, if you've been good to your list, do you think they'll be good to you back? Yes, they will, but most people are so quick to try and make the sale that they won't even spend this time in the first place. And the funny thing is, those that are coming online to create their own business, they kind of duplicate this because they think that's the way to do business. The amount of lists that I sign up to, because I'm really interested in how people market online, they're all the same. They're all boring, bland, ridiculous claims, and we know for a fact that they haven't had these successes. They're just saying, and this will almost fall on deaf words to marketers like that, and I'm fine with that. But there's a handful of smart, real marketers that engage, people like yourself, people like Kim Roach, people like myself, that if you spend a little bit of time really caring about this email address, this is not a faceless, anonymous person. This is a real person with hopes and dreams and aspirations and fears, just like all of us. And then if we communicate like that, and we picture this person, who are we talking to, and talk to them, don't talk at them, talk to them, just like a good conversation that you might have when you meet somebody. It changes everything. And the thing is, A, hardly anybody is doing this, and B, it's not difficult to do. So to answer your question, I find email marketing, the best thing you can do is have an email list that is responsive. That's the best thing, because you're going to continuously have instant traffic. And of course you have to build that list in the first place, but if you spend some time nurturing that relationship with your list, which most people don't, then you can, I don't want to say quite simply, but having a 5, 6, 7 figure a year business is not something that is unachievable within 12 months. You've done it, I've done it, many other people I know have done it. But it's all to do with that engagement. It's all to do with that relationship first and treating people as real people. I remember reading this great saying once when it comes down to selling. And somebody says, nobody likes to be sold to, but we all like to buy. And do you know what? I thought that's true. That actually is true. We all like to buy new stuff. We love buying new stuff. It's just, we like to buy new stuff. But nobody likes to feel like they're being sold to. So if we can create that relationship where we don't make people feel as if we're selling to them, then it changes everything. So that would be my answer.
Fantastic advice. Thank you, Chris. That's really some golden advice there for everybody watching.
Thank you.
So just moving on from the advice you have just given us, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen online over the last few years that you do think have affected the way people do business in marketing these days?
Okay, I think one of the biggest changes, without a shadow of a doubt, is exactly what we're doing right now, you and I. It has never been so easy to communicate online. Now, I appreciate some maybe watching this thinking, well, I don't want to communicate. I don't want to kind of be not necessarily known, but I don't want to engage with people respectfully, then this business may not be for you, because this business is all about communicating. It is all about getting yourself known out there and getting your message known out there. What's the word? Engaging. That's the word I'm looking for. The thing I love about internet marketing, particularly now, here, right now, and in this current climate, this current time, is the marketing playing field is level. We may not have the deep pockets that Microsoft and Apple have. Well, I don't. Joe Barnes does these days. But the marketing playing field is level. We can do exactly what the big boys are doing because we can do things like this. We're suddenly a real three-dimensional person. One question I get asked sort of often, or the general theme of the question is something as like such as the following. Let's say Julie, who's 50, who's divorced with 3 kids, and she'll say, well, Chris, who would even care about me? I'm 50, I'm divorced, I've got 3 kids. Who's going to care about me? And my answer is always the same. And the answer is the fact, Julie, that you are 50, that you are divorced, that you've got 3 kids. Suddenly, you're this 3-dimensional real person. Now, I'm not saying you have to necessarily do this or make a live video, but even if you've just had an image on your website and it was a tiny 3 lines about yourself. Hi, I'm Julie, I'm 50, I'm a divorced mum of 3, I live in Pennsylvania. Suddenly, you're real, you're 3-dimensional, and people connect to people. So to answer your question, what's the biggest change that I've seen? The biggest change is that the marketing playing field is now level, and those that have a little bit of courage, because it does take a bit of courage to jump out of maybe their comfort zone and to embrace the technology that exists out there to harness this opportunity, end up doing well. So there's no excuse not to do this. Yes, it takes learning some new skills first, but anything worth achieving does. Anything worth achieving does. And as we mentioned earlier, you can learn these new skills. And as I say, I do this thing called Brainfluence for an hour a day. You can learn any new skill about anything in business. Is there something in particular you wanted to learn? You could learn it, if you focused, you could probably learn it within a day, literally. But most people spend weeks, months, sometimes years confusing activity for action, I like to say. Faffing around on Facebook, looking at YouTube videos, checking out their ex's photos. We've all done it, okay? We've all done it. We're all human. But if we just have this hour of brainfluence time, as I keep calling it, you'll be amazed. You will achieve more in that hour than probably you will do in the day, if not the week. But to answer your question, what has changed? We can now all interact and communicate with each other with the click of a button.
Do you know, it's funny, I've done a lot of testing this year. I've tested sort of, slightly more aggressive sales tactics versus relationship building style sales tactics. Yeah, I've done all sorts of different things. Sometimes, unfortunately, at the expense of some people on my list who have, written to me and said, "Oh, Joe, your emails are getting, a bit aggressive or whatever," and I've gone back saying, "Yeah, well, I'm kind of testing things. I want to see what works and what doesn't work and all that kind of stuff." And along with doing that, what I've also done is I've invested in quite a lot of different products, to see how other marketers are doing different things and, giving value within their products and all of that kind of stuff. And there's one thing I've been looking for all year. I've been looking for it and looking for it and looking for it, and it's in almost nearly every sales pitch. And then I go through the product, and it's the fastest possible way to build a business online, the fastest possible way to get to a point where you're actually generating a little bit of income. Yeah, and I've just been looking at all the different possible ways, and I have come to the conclusion, as we're closing in on the end of this year now, that, do you know what? There is no bypassing relationship building. End of story. There is no bypassing it. There just is no shortcut to it. I mean, and if you're a master copywriter, if you are one of the best copywriters in the world, then you've got a good in there, because you're building a relationship with people almost as soon as they hit your page. Yeah, but there is no bypassing relationship building. The only possible way to build a consistent and recurring income, and to actually create a real business and be able to generate that money every month, is by building relationships and by communicating and engaging and talking to people. And your last couple of points about email marketing and about treating people like they're actually people as opposed to just faceless email addresses, and then your last point in particular about 3-dimensional characters and all that is just so unbelievably true, because that's what it is. It's all about people. This business is all about people. Everything you do, it's all about people, and there's just no getting past that relationship building. And
if I may quickly add 2 things to that. Firstly, it's not difficult to do, and secondly, hardly anybody's really doing it. A lot of people say they'll do it, and the funny thing with Facebook is fabulous, but it's kind of created this breed of a lot of people that will talk the talk. I see so many people saying things like, "Hey, I've crushed it. I'm about to go on stage and change some lives," talking about themselves. And it's like, it's very easy for somebody to say something about that. And what is not helped is then they'll get comments fueling that, saying, "Hey, well done you." But it's a bit like a comedian. A comedian, a good comedian, would never say, "Hey, I'm funny." It'd be up to people to say, "Hey, he's funny." And it's a bit like, what we do. I think, a person's real character is judged by their actions, not by what they say. And so that basically, I'm agreeing with exactly what you say. Go out there and do it. Don't just say value is so important. Actually live that then. Send an email, spend a whole day creating a great web page at your site with really good, valuable content with no sales pitch. And then see what happens when you do that a few times, and then see what happens 2 weeks later when you do send a sales pitch to those that have engaged and opened your emails in the first place. Your open rates will go through the roof, and you will make sales. But you will not do that if you try and make the sales straight away. You know, this is a marathon, this business. It's not a sprint. I'm in it for the long term. And the thing that probably excites me more than anything is we have only really just begun. Things like this, being able to communicate using this technology, thanks to Google, has only been around really for a few months, maybe a year at the most. We're on the starting blocks. Now is the time to start. This didn't even exist a year ago. I still don't know how it all works. I'm still learning every day. So it's a great business to be in, and it's the perfect time to start. I feel a bit emotional
Chris,
now.
as always, you're just a complete inspiration. You've inspired me since the day I came online, and I don't want to get all gushy, but you know, you have, and you're just a total. You are a complete inspiration, and thank you for all your help. You know, for me, but also for all of the people that you help online, because I know you've helped thousands and thousands of people.
Well, thank you, Jay.
So. Before we go today, I would love it if you would recommend something inspirational, a book, a film, a person to follow, something that will really help the people watching this today.
Two things, if I may. Firstly, there's a terrific website called lifehack.org. Are you familiar with this, Joe? Lifehack.org.
I think I've heard of it, but I'm not sure I've ever actually checked it out. But lifehack.org.
It's just a beautiful site, great little articles, and they've all got the same style. All the articles are things like 7 ways to have more energy, 10 things you should know about starting your business that you probably don't. You know, 5 ways to change how productive this week's going to be. Nice short articles, and it's just beautifully written, and it's a great site, lifehack.org. And the second thing I'd recommend is a gentleman who probably be my biggest influence, and you and I have spoken about him. He's passed away sadly now, but it's a guy called Jim Rohn that some may not be aware of on this call. Jim Rohn. Rohn is spelled R-O-H-N, Jim Rohn. You can go to YouTube, find tons of videos. If you go to YouTube and type in Jim Rohn Girl Scout Story, I know that sounds odd. Trust me on this, it's going to be probably the best 8 minutes you will spend today. He's such an eloquent gentleman. He tells this beautiful story. He's got wonderful language, just a nice tonality to his presentation. He tells this beautiful story about really what we're talking about. And that's all I'm going to say. Jim Rohn, he passed away a few years ago. He's generally regarded as America's foremost business philosopher and business leader. He's got a lovely gentle spirit and a nice manner to him. But go to YouTube, type in Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N, Girl Scout Story, and I think that will be something that will affect many that are watching this if you are unfamiliar with this Girl Scout story. It's a beautiful story, very powerful.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen it. I'm going to go
Have
and
you
watch
not seen it? Oh,
no,
go and watch it. It's just raw and vulnerable and real, and you watch him and you think, oh man, I kind of have been there. I sort of you understand what he's saying, and it's like we're talking about, ironically, kind of gives a nice bow to what we're talking about now. It's all about relationships, and he's just being real, and it's not putting on a show, it's not putting on an act, it's just communicating with his audience, which in those days was audio cassettes. You know, he was big in the 80s and the 90s. One of his recordings, he talks about his new cassette program coming out. You mention cassette now to anyone under 30, they'd be like, what's that? Is that a new band? Hey, it's the Cassettes, they're live at the Staples Center. Come on, I love the Cassettes. We're getting old.
Oh, that's so true. No, it's true. Sometimes I say to my 7-year-old, "Oh, for goodness' sake, you're like a broken record." What's a record? I don't know what a record is.
That's hilarious. For goodness' sake, you're like an MP3 that doesn't buffer. You're like a non-buffering MP3. She'd be like, Keris, you're like an MP3 that's stuttering and not buffering. Mom, what are you talking about? Exactly. Just buffer more. That's hilarious. I never thought of that. Broken record. Dear old Keris. How is little Keris?
Oh, she's good. Yeah, good. She's great. Bless her. Yeah,
good,
she's
good.
7 going on 20
17, I bet. I can imagine. That's scary.
Yeah, she is. Yeah,
That's
very
scary.
independent. But anyway, don't know where she gets that from. Good, Chris, that was awesome. Thank you so much for the inspirational recommendation there. Okay, so I'm going to go and check out Jim Rohn. Go and check out lifehack.org. Ladies and gentlemen, to find out more about Chris Farrell, then just head to chrisfarrell.com. But in all honesty, you're not going to have to do anything because you're going to be viewing this video. If you're viewing this video on YouTube, there is a link underneath this video which is going to take you straight through to my blog, and on there are going to be all the links. So I'll include the link to Lifehack, the link to Jim Rohn's video, and the link, of course, to Chris Farrell's membership.com or chrisfarrell.com to go and find out more about Chris. Plus, I'll put his Facebook page on there as well, so you can go and hassle him on Facebook. If you're watching this on my blog, then, of course, all the links are directly underneath this video, and you can go and find out more about Chris and go and have a chat with him. He's a lovely fellow, so you can go and have a chat with him through these links. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for attending the very first show of Joe Barnes Online Business Show. I should be really interested to look back in a year. And this is exactly what Chris was saying, by the way, about just be prepared to get out there and try stuff and give it a go. I bet you in a year's time, after I've been doing this for 52 weeks or so, I shall look back at this first show and go, oh my God, why did I say that? Or what was that about? But you have to just get out there and try these things, and gradually you know, your skills develop, and don't they, Chris? You just get better and better and better at what you do. As the old business analogy goes, you know, ready, fire, aim. You know, you're never ever going to, as General George Patton once said, you know, there's never going to be a perfect time to execute a plan. Never. There just isn't. So just execute it and come back and refine. You know, have it at a stage that it's ready to deploy. But if you're waiting for that perfect moment, I mean, look at Joe's haircut. It's never going to be perfect. We would have been waiting here forever if she waited for her hair to look fabulous. So yeah, just get it out there. Says he here, with his 1980s haircut I've had for 20 years. Hey, this is my cool, relaxed Phuket, Thailand look, you know. You look Ladies and gentlemen, oh, just before we go, I just want to tell you, look, can you see my backdrop there? You see, this is the beauty of technology. I am in Phuket, Thailand right now, and Chris is in a now dark, because the sun has been going down as we've been speaking, Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, on a Sunday evening, and I'm Monday morning. There we go, yeah. Technology. Gotta love it. Oh, I love technology. Anyway. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end the broadcast now. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you for our next Joe Barnes Online Business Show with another fabulous guest in a week or so. So I'll see you very soon. Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for joining us. Joe, it's been a pleasure. Thank you to those watching as well. And Joe, speak with you soon. Absolutely. Speak to you soon. Take care. Right, hold that thought 1 second. We're going to edit this section here, Chris. This Hangout is draining my computer. I had like 100% power about 5 minutes ago, and it's gone all the way down to 30. What's going on? Hello. When you just said when you just went away there, you said, Chris, you're draining. I thought you meant what I was talking about was draining. Chris, we've got to stop. You're draining me. Oh, it meant leaving electricity. No. Hair's all over the place now. Oh. I didn't want to say, but I am a little embarrassed at how it looks. Okay.